scanning cycle. Module, limb, leg, left. Not found.
Just great. So where am I even supposed to look?
I swear on my cooling unit, these mustached perverts must have dragged her into the maintenance room.
I'm on my way. This place used to be really nice. Until everybody got killed.
It is a most tragic sight.
Saving data.
Access.
Hey, this is new.
You may need to apply spatial reasoning here.
There's no may about it. These locks of yours are really something, you know that? Easy now.
Disconnecting the Tereshkovas from the network was a bad idea. You've been acting weird lately. You don't believe me? Just listen to this.
Look, my dearest Claire. See that group of humans? They're visitors. The little ones are newer models. They're called children, and they make things prettier and more fun. The ones that are a little older are called students. They can do a little bit more. And the older model behind the column is called a senior citizen. And he seems to keep staring at us.
They're talking about me. They saw me. Those robots were watching the people at the exhibit like they were the exhibit themselves. It's all really creepy. I'd wipe their memory if I were you.
Saving data.
You look so focused, honey. Are you thinking about me?
Buzz off, I'm working on my equipment.
I hope you're not thinking about that nasty doctor slut.
Who? What are you even talking about?
Why, Petrov's vulgar and graceless whore, of course.
You mean Dr. Filatova?
I do not care what her name is. She better keep away from you if she knows what's good for her.
Filatova will stand trial and be punished for aiding and abetting traitors to the motherland.
I knew she was a criminal, sugar. Let's string her up. Oh, it will be fun. I promise.
Shut up, you electric sheep.
What did you just say, handsome?
I said fuck off. You heard me just fine.
Oh, I love it when you are angry. Punish me.
Man, you are so fucked up.
Saving data.
Hey, Charlie. Why couldn't they just put regular, more reliable locks everywhere? Like with codes and shit?
I suspect it's because if they had, anyone who hacked the code would be able to open the locks without authorization.
Yeah, but now anyone who solves the puzzles can get through. In other words, pretty much anybody. Charles, I've never seen Dr. Sechenov wearing a bracelet before. Does his alpha connector look different?
Indeed it does. His device is unique, and its shape and location are one of Dr. Sechenov's deepest secrets.
So his alpha connector must be really well guarded. Who's watching it, Argentum?
Entrusting humans with the connector would be far too risky. It's guarded by Dr. Sechenov's personal bodyguards.
You mean the ballerina twins? Way they move. They're so graceful and elegant.
reach the facility's service rooms, Major. One of my dear Claire's legs is most certainly there.
Yeah, the truth is out there, right? I've never seen bots like these before.
This robot is very dangerous in melee combat.
Oh, so that's why I'm getting my ass kicked. Pray to your tin god. Charles, why did the boss take the real beta connectors out of commission? Were they defective?
Not entirely. Dr. Sechenov wasn't convinced that there was any need for discretionary authority within Collective.
So the boss wanted total equality, but Molotov's schemes changed his mind.
Perhaps so, Comrade Major.
What do you mean, perhaps?
Dr. Sechenov wanted equality for everyone. There can be no question of that. But consider this. The Alpha Connector existed from the very beginning.
Here's your leg, do-yourself repair thing. Cool tech.
Please select the desired procedure.
continuing cycle. Module, limb, arm, left, found. Location, Pavlov floor.
Could you be a little more specific?
Ew! This is terrible. It plunged into something warm and sticky. Oh my, it is red polymer. Disgusting!
Saving data.
Access granted.
Wow, a lock. Didn't see that coming.
yourself comfortable. Would you like to hear about whales?
Sorry. What?
Whales. Whales are my speciality. I'm the resident cytologist here, although there's been very little for me to study so far. But I love them dearly. They're magnificent creatures. So, have I piqued your curiosity?
What are you talking about? You're dead.
What do you mean? Oh, my. That's what's going on. It was so awful. Just like when I had my stroke. Which means... Hang on, excuse me. 1 second. I just need to contemplate my passing.
Saving data.
What's that crap in the canisters?
Be careful. That is a specimen called Plyusch, or ivy. It is extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I've seen this crap before. And of course, the ripped-off arm is in there too. Why couldn't it just be lying in a corner somewhere? Polymer son of a bitch almost took me out. Let's hope another one of those freaks doesn't come crawling out of the next canister.
According to my data, the second canister is sealed properly.
Have you infiltrated the VDNH yet, Major. The Government Commission is almost here.
I'm inside, looking for a way to activate military drill mode. Things have been complicated by a shitload of weird shit. Any more questions?
Well, look faster. Don't let Dr. Sechenov down again.
Speaking of weird shit. Whoa! Hey! Why isn't anybody working? Were you on the tour?
Crunch, break, bend, snap, spine.
Gotcha. I'll tell the tour guide I found one of her people. Looks like a med student. Charles, so after the whole beta connector idea was dead, they made the neuroconnectors with discretionary authority?
I'm afraid so. The power struggle in the Kremlin will never end. The party elite insisted on having power even within Collective.
Well, they're our government, right? We're the USSR.
Indeed we are. But Collective was designed to be for everyone on Earth, and the USSR is not the only country.
We can't let capitalists and imperialists into Collective.
Why not? Collective was designed as a worldwide union for equal human beings, where robots will do everything for them. Everyone will have the same opportunities.
The capitalists won't like the sound of that.
Unfortunately, no one in power will see equality as an appealing prospect. So to avoid being crushed by the Kremlin, Dr. Sechenov programmed discretionary...
Here's your left arm. Go ahead, fix yourself up.
Scanning cycle. Module, limb, arm, right, found. Location, Vavilov floor. Transmission obstructed. Data incomplete.
What's the holdup? Why can't we locate the module this time?
I'm afraid I can't help you. There's some kind of interference on this floor. Possible sources of interference include electromagnetic shielding or the presence of a large, elongated object.
A large, elongated object. That sounds odd. Wow, there's a big honking thing in here. And lots of little fuckers. Get over here! What am I supposed to do with this? What is this, a kid's game?
That is a puzzle key.
Nice. What's it for?
I believe it activates some sort of process.
Holy fuck, Charles! Is that the process I just activated?
Run!
Where? Hey, what the hell are you doing, damn it? You metal son of a bitch. You scared the ever-living fuck out of me.
Was close.
Well, whatever. I got the arm. This looks like the right one. Let's go find the rest. So, what was wrong with the real beta connectors?
Since Collective was originally planned without any discretionary authority, everyone in it was supposed to be equal.
Yeah, we already talked about that. Then why'd they need the beta connectors?
To secure Collective against unforeseen threats from individuals who might wish to control it.
So how could beta connectors stop this from happening?
They didn't give their carriers any discretionary authority, but they did allow them to be present within Collective without being a part of it. In other words, they had total autonomy while retaining access to the information network.
So what? That's basically what we have right now.
You're seeing this from a human perspective.
What other kind of perspective could I... Oh, crap. Boss wanted to put beta rings on some robots so no one else in Collective could control them.
Indeed they are. At first, Dr. Sechenov planned to order his loyal twins to guard the Alpha Connector. While logged into Collective, he could control them from anywhere on Earth. At the same time, no one else would be able to give them orders. They wouldn't even know that they exist.
Hold on, Charles. I don't quite get it. Would it be possible to launch Collective with everybody equal, then destroy the Alpha Connector?
Certainly, but that begs another question. Who would choose to do that?
Okay, first arm's good.